Ferguson. Albert skorar! Albert Gunnarsson hefur skorað. Ragnar Bergjesson skorar þetta mark. Glæsilega. Óskar Rafn á móti Bjarna. Og Bjarni með góða sendingu fyrir og það Andri Ingvarsson.
Hello and welcome back to the best pod
Ever.
I'm Ragnar and I'm joined as per usual by
Tryggvi.
and we are here to talk about the best deildin. The best deildin. Round 18 plus a little bonus Jonas from round 16. Perhaps we can start with a little upset. A little sort of upset that happened in Forsvaret. Vikingur won. Vestri won.
Yeah, not many people had seen that coming, I guess.
I don't remember what I said last week, but I think I said that I would love to see Vestri do something there. Because that's always how I feel. And did something they did.
Yeah, a huge point for them. Nobody expected anything. Yeah, especially when Vikingur went 1-0 up. I think that was sort of it. In Forsvaret. But Vestri fought back. Very scrappy sort of game. Vestri equalized with a really, really nice goal by Gunnar Jónas Hauksson. His first goal in the Bestadeildin. It's a good way to start off your account. And they really needed this point. And Vikingur, I mean, it's a game in between two European fixtures that we'll touch on a little bit later. And there's an argument that maybe that this game should have been postponed to try to give Vikingur the best possible preparation time. But yeah, I think it's the sort of game that usually I think Vikingur would have just dusted themselves off, said, this was not good enough, we have to do better, and then moved on. But then I think we'll touch upon later, there was some drama in that game.
There was some drama, but we can lump it in with other drama later. So stay tuned. Another 1-1 draw that happened roughly the same time was Fylkir 1, Kawa 1. It was also maybe slightly unexpected. We expected Kawa, the form champions, to maybe do a little bit better there against Fylkir.
Yeah, but we also said, I think we said that you never really know what to expect with Fylkir. We also said they were the only team in the bottom four that had won a game in the last 5 games.
Yeah,
they were, not anymore. We'll touch upon that later as well. So I guess they're a little bit, we can expect them to sometimes throw up a surprise. And, at home, I think it's very obvious that, they need to start getting points. Kawa they're the informed team, but they're far from perfect. I think we've seen that, this season, but even in their wins, there's been some fragility there. So very, very well done by Fylkir. And I think Rúnar Páll was saying after the game that he was more sort of annoyed that he felt they could have put this game to bed. So he said that he's happy with the first half, happy with the last 20 minutes in the game. And then, Kawa had a period in the first sort of 20 minutes of the second half. But, they score. They don't really get a lot of chances, but they score their goal. It's a bit bad to give them that goal. And then it's he said it's very annoying, and we're trying to be positive. We're trying to go for the goal, but we just can't. We can't finish off games. We can't finish off chances. And but a good point. But I think they will be feeling a little bit disappointed not to have come away with 3 points when momentum was sort of with them in that game.
These results, in 2 draws, they still keep Vestri and Fylkir pretty much at the bottom of the table. Fylkir in 12th on 13 points and Vestri in 10th on 14 points. Neither team had amazing transfer windows. Vestri lost a couple players, but brought in now Jeppe Pedersen from OP, Patrick Pedersen's brother. So they're hoping, I guess, the genetics pull them through on that one. And then Fylkir They were trying to get Omar from Leiknir, but that apparently did not happen. So Fylkir really find themselves unstrengthened, and Vestri kind of making up for their losses.
Yeah, there was a video of the chairman of Vestri going around Ísafjörður trying to, I think jokingly for the most part, asking people to send in money to try to raise funds for players. Fylkir would have liked to do the same. We spoke about their financial issues before. They were very publicly going for Omar from Leiknir. But Leiknir didn't want to. I'm not sure if it was Leiknir that rejected the offer or Omar that didn't feel like going from one relegation battle to another, from first division to the Besta. His contract is running out in the summer. There's a lot of interest. Even Kauer were linked to him, so maybe he just thought, okay, let's wait it out and see what other options we have.
Yeah. Either way, Fylkir find themselves in a bit of a pickle here.
Yeah, I think both teams really needed something. We said it a few times that this relegation battle could be determined by the transfer window. I think they were happy that nobody really else. Well, Haukar got a few players. Well, we can touch on it a bit later. But yeah, I think they'll be happy that Esther didn't really replace, or only sort of just managed to replace Tariq. It didn't really add to their team that much. So I'm hoping that Haukar's players additions don't push them too far over the line. Because this could be quite big coming at the end of the season. Because they lost Orri Rapp back to Valur, who was on loan there.
Mm-hmm.
He sort of dropped out of the team a little bit. I think a little bit of injuries, a little bit of sort of out of form, but still, it's a player that I think just having liberal bodies on the pitch is good for them as well. So it's a blow.
It is a blow. Another blow. Can we call it a blow? The third draw of this round. Stjarnan 2, Breiðablik 2. A big blow for Breiðablik?
I think so. I think they, especially given Stjarnan have a lot of injury problems. They're getting back now after Europe has ended. I think they're sort of gathering strength now, and they should be able to. I think they'll be able to push into the top 6. So Stjarnan are looking pretty good, but Breiðablik didn't look super great in this game, to be honest. They didn't look like a team that's really desperately trying to chase down Víkingur, and especially with Víkingur losing points against Vestri. This is a huge blow for them, and I think they're quite lucky not to have lost this game, to be honest.
This was a game with a very real amount of drama and unhappiness.
Both managers seem to be unhappy with the referee. Halldór Arna, the manager of Breiðablik, came out and said that said that the referees will feel very bad when they watch this game again.
I mean, the refereeing team was booed by the whole crowd in both teams after the game.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, and then Stjarnan also were not super happy. The big event that they sort of will feel aggrieved by is when Breiðablik's first goal, there was a pull on Örvar Eggerts, or very much looked like there's some debate, and I mean, it's not a super clear pull. It's not like he just takes the legs from under him. It seems like there's a bit of a touch, a bit of a tug there, and he goes down. Nothing's called. He's in on goal. Nothing's called, and then Breiðablik go up the other end literally seconds later and equalize. I think it's, I don't know, maybe the players are just very, very disciplined. I thought it was a little odd that the Stjarnan players didn't really seem to complain about it. But I guess good for them.
I mean, all the discussion about this foul seems to be that it's the most obvious thing in the universe. But watching it, I think it could go either way. It's not super, especially in real time from the referee. I don't think it doesn't seem so cut and dried to me.
I mean, refereeing is a super tough job, and I think in situations like this, people would say, in the middle of the pitch it would be called, but it has different repercussions in the middle of the pitch versus here. Like in the middle of the pitch, you could sort of call it, and if it's wrong and there's nothing really happening there, there's no big, it's just a bit of a tussle, you can sort of call the foul and say, don't do that again. But here it's like it's a red card and a
whole thing.
It costs quite a lot. Yeah, exactly. It turns into a whole thing. So it is a bit hard to say that it's the same. It would be a foul in other places of the pitch. But I mean, yeah, maybe, but it has different consequences. So yeah, I mean, I get him not maybe being a bit afraid to call that.
Yeah, I'm kind of fine with it not being called, if I'm being honest. there were also complaints from Breiðablik about Stjarnan changing their like initial match report or whatever, the reported starting lineup very late very soon before kickoff. Initially saying that Emil Atla was supposed to be on the bench and then not starting him on the bench. They say that it's because the Liðsstjóri, the team leader, was abroad. But apparently this is not the first time that Stjarnan do this, and a little bit unsporting, perhaps.
It is unsporting. They should get a fine for it. Maybe even you can suspend the manager at some point. I don't know. You need to make some sort of rules. I think the discussion is. I think there's a lot of journalists that are more annoyed by this than anyone else. I haven't really seen managers come out and say oh, this is
yeah,
because it's a bit childish. It's a bit like you would see Mourinho doing this back in 2006 with Chelsea. It's like they're supposed to sort of hand in this lineup an hour before. There was a lot of talk, I think last year or 2 years ago with Breiðablik and Víkingur, when there was, I think last year, and Breiðablik and Víkingur had that drama. They weren't handing in the match report on time, this sort of stuff. Like, it's been done before. I think it's mostly journalists and people who have to write these. The biggest complaints I saw about this was like, oh, I set up the lineup and then it was wrong and it made me look like a fool. Okay.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, you can just sort of say that, look, they've handed it in, they changed it. But yeah, I mean, that probably should come with a fine or something. Like, this is in the rule book. You're supposed to hand in the correct one.
I mean, I don't think it's such a big deal, but it's a thing. Speaking of forwards, in a very roundabout sort of way, KR have seen the light and have written to KC about this whole nonsense with HK in the game that was postponed, even though they were all ready to go. Sans goal. And they've made some pretty salient points there. It all makes sense. Saying that abroad, that if this were to happen abroad, then the team that can't provide the facilities would forfeit, and also provided examples from Iceland and referencing some paragraph 15.6 in the rules, etc. So they're being serious about this. I do agree with what they're doing, but it also there's a little hint of desperation there, trying to get 3 free points.
Yeah. They're trying everything. They are in trouble. So yeah, free 3 points without playing would be fantastic. But it is something that needs to be talked about at the end of the season. Not this game specifically, but just in general. Like, you can't have, like, it's KR at HK, so people were maybe a bit more forgiving. I mean, what if this was HK against Víkingur or something? Who have European games coming up, and where are you going to put that game? Would it have been a different discussion for a team like that doesn't really have that many holes in the calendar? Would they have maybe? I'm not saying KR were prejudiced against or anything like that, but like, it's also, if you have Víkingur going out in Europe, but Breiðablik, all these teams going out in Europe, playing teams like FC Copenhagen and St. Mirren, these professional teams, and the games are being postponed because the grass isn't ready, and that there isn't a goal on the pitch and stuff. I think it just makes the league look unprofessional, to be honest. Like, if this is one of those news that a clickbaity football site would be like, oh, you'll never believe why a game was called off in Iceland, and then it's gonna look like some sort of third division team. But no, it's a relegation battle in the top division. So yeah, I think it's mostly that. I think it just looks unprofessional and something they need to discuss and come end of the season. Yeah,
they need to work on their organization in general, this league. This isn't the first time we talk about just organization from Besta Deildin. They're clearly lacking in that regard, and yeah, it does make them look bad. They need to take the winter and have a good hard think and plan. But KR not only getting free 3 points, perhaps, but also earning them on the pitch at home for the first time. First home win since October 1st, ladies and gentlemen. First win since May 20th. First clean sheet of the season. Yeah. They beat FO 1-0.
I think Paul Medup, the manager, sort of summed it up pretty well. Says it's a huge relief. He also said that the last win they got was also against FO. But I think he put it really well when he said, we really appreciate it. It's much needed points, but it's completely insane that this is the first home win, that this is the first clean sheet. This isn't normal. This isn't, it's something to be celebrated for now, but it's something that needs to be really, really looked at. This cannot happen again.
Yeah, it was mixed emotions seeing them there at the end of the game. They were very happy, and rightfully so, but it was also a little bit like, guys, look at what you're celebrating. FH could have won, though. Let's be honest.
Yeah, this wasn't a complete rollover or a complete battering of FH, and but somehow it was only 1-0. No, it was a very scrappy. It was a nice goal, a nice finish by Aron Þórður, and Coward had some periods where they looked quite good, but and I think Smith made some nice saves. The defense who had to stay a bit strong. It was the last second. I think the entire viewing audience saw FO's. They had a free kick in the 95th minute or something, like last kick of the game, into the penalty area, hit a cross goal, and then 2 FO players were on the far post ready to head it in. And I think that was the equalizer 99 times out of 100. But somehow, I don't know, maybe they put in a bump on the grass in the exact right place or something. I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know how they didn't finish that. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it's. I think everyone saw that ball in the back of the net, but yeah, somehow it didn't, and much needed points.
Absolutely. This game happened right in the wake of this sort of 2-for-1 transfer between Coward and FO. But none of the players were involved. Do you think it would have been different if they had been involved?
Maybe. I think Floki is not fit. I don't think so. He wouldn't have played for FH, and then it would have only been Gillit up for Coward. Maybe for Coward, because I don't think they made any substitutions in that game. Or if they did, it was like the last second. I think they just played the entire, first 11 for 90 minutes. So maybe they could have afforded a substitution. But no, I think I'm not sure. But it's very welcome additions for Coward at least.
And then Coward have finally done what I guess we all saw coming months ago, or what, with this whole weird Óskar Hrafn situation. He is now the new Coward manager. Yeah,
Coward have painted it as we can't afford to have sort of Palmi not working in his directorship role, or whatever you want to call it, chairman role or whatever that was vacated by Bjarni Guðjóns earlier this year. So that's the reasoning that we need him now, and there's a lot of stuff happening in the club. We need more stability. So, but yeah, I think, like you said, everyone saw this coming.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about their little statement. I don't know. Like, is that the pressing need here? Is for a director of football? That's what's keeping the acute performance so bad? Or is it just saving face for not wanting to make Palme look like an idiot?
Yeah, it's probably a little bit of both. I mean, they clearly need someone, in the office trying to sort out this mess, because it's, whether that's Palme or someone else, but they need someone because it's been a mess for the last 2 years, especially this year. It's not been good. So they need someone, and hopefully that's Palme. Maybe Palme. I mean, he didn't do a terrible job as a manager. It wasn't anything, like nothing super big change, to be honest. So I mean, maybe his powers are more useful up top in the offices.
Hopefully things will. Maybe they'll turn around immediately and Coward win the league somehow. They defy mathematics.
I mean, if you look at the type, I mean, they're not going to win the league now. But if you look at the table, 18 points, a game in hand against Haukar. Let's say somehow they win that game. That's 2 wins on the bounce. They have 21 points, 5 points behind Fram in 6th place.
Yeah.
Can Óskar Hrafn? I mean, can he? I mean, because it isn't a bad team. Like, this isn't a team of nobodies that somehow, through sheer grit have avoided relegation. This is a very expensively assembled team that was at some point this year expected to give Vikingur maybe not to win the league, but to give Vikingur a bit of a run for its money. So for us to expect that they can win 3-4 games now before the split, or at least get enough points to maybe challenge the middle, I don't know. I mean, it's not going to happen, but it's not like, I don't think it's out of this world that they can somehow at least catch Kawa maybe and save some face.
Yeah, but for now the goal is to avoid relegation, which is also Hauka's goal, but they didn't do a very good job of it this week. Unfortunately, coming up against Valur, who kind of outclassed them there, 5-1 to Valur.
Yeah. I mean, this was what you expect this sort of game. Hauka once in a while can stand up to these teams. Usually it's not the other teams as often. But yeah, I mean, Hauka got an early red card. I was surprised to see that it was only their third red card this season. In my head, they get a red card every other week, so that's not true, clearly. But another red card, gave Valur a penalty, and then I think that was sort of it. I don't think there was any coming back from that.
No, relatively straightforward sort of route by Valur. Interesting stat, though. Jonathan Ingi scored a hat-trick for Valur. Way back in the pre-COVID era pre-Trump era of 2013, Kristinn Freyr Sigurdsson scored a hat-trick for Valur. And in between these two hat-tricks, Valur have scored 6 hat-tricks total, all of them by Patrick Pedersen.
That's insane. And it's also like, it's crazy that it's over. Yeah. I mean, 10-year period, more than 11-year period. It doesn't...
Man scores goals.
Yeah, it says a lot about Patrick Pedersen.
Yeah.
A little bit about Valur as well.
So this Valur victory was a sort of an expected one, but it wasn't Valur's only game of this. I mean, it was their only game of this round, but it wasn't their only game of this round because they played the round 16 game against Breiðablik. And this was the opportunity to consolidate a little bit the top. As much as they succeeded against Hauka, they failed against Breiðablik, losing 2-0 there. Puts them in a bit of a position. Vikingur is first on 40, Breiðablik second on 37. That's an actual fight there. And then Valur third on 31. Closer to IA than they are to Breiðablik. Closer to FH, closer to Fram. Is that true? Yes. Whoa. Closer to Fram in 6th than they are to Breiðablik in 2nd.
Yeah, I mean, that's Breiðablik. There's another 3 points up to Vikingur. So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think they're... Can I say it? Yeah, I think they're out. I think they're done. This was the game that they needed to win. 2 games on the bounce, new manager, no Europe to focus on, all hands on deck, brought in a new player. And yeah, they didn't. To be fair to them, it's not like this wasn't like, I guess, it was in a sense, but it wasn't a complete Valur collapse. They played pretty well. They could have scored. Antonari, the goalkeeper at Breiðablik, played a really good game. We're not going to give him a star because it wasn't technically round 18. So, but I think he deserves an honorary star, or a star with an asterisk, or whatever you want to call it, or 4th star. Because he, especially in the beginning of the game and then towards the end as well, there was a lot of really nice saves. So I mean, they had a lot of good chances, but it was just... like the manager said, Tuva said, they're missing that last 10%, which he said it's not necessarily into the tactics or the football, but it's this ruthlessness or killer mentality that they're missing. And I would agree to that. I think we spoke about it before. It's this sort of giving up attitude. They seem to display a little bit sometimes, when stuff goes against them. That's the stuff that needs to be fixed, because again, they are not a terrible side. They're even more expensively assembled team that just are missing that last, like you said, 10% to be able to challenge for the top.
They're missing the power of friendship, perhaps.
Exactly. But I mean, it really
to be underestimated.
But I mean, really important for Breiðablik. I don't feel like we talk about Breiðablik enough. They're one of those teams that they always get the short end of the stick a little bit. They're not making fancy transfers. They're not apart from a little bit of referee drama this weekend, they don't end a lot of kerfuffles as they did last year. They're sort of quietly doing their job, building a team that might not be able to catch Víkingur. I don't think it's impossible, especially with Víkingur distracted now, even more so. But I think it's a team that looks quite good, and for next season, I think they're going to be a real force.
Yeah, absolutely. I would make the claim that they're the second best team in the league.
And that's without Jason Tade as well. Like they lost arguably the best or one of the best players in the league without really replacing him. So I think that says a lot about their depth, but also just the way they're playing. I think they haven't really missed too much of a step.
I mean their stats are very similar to Víkingur across the board. It's just one loss that Víkingur have instead as a win. Víkingur have scored slightly more goals, conceded slightly fewer. They're very close in terms of the sort of macro statistics.
I think maybe the most interesting stat that I saw, which was posted by Elva Björk at Elva BSig on X, Twitter. So before this round of games, they posted it on the 12th of August. So the split between, the split between the sort of how the teams have gotten their points. So versus the top half of the league and the second half of the league, the top bottom half of the league. And at that point in time, Víkingur had their 40 points, and it was 20 points from the top half and 20 points from the bottom half. Breiðablik had 34 points, and it was 26 from the bottom half and 8 from the top half. And it was very similar for Valur, 22 from bottom, 9 from the top. Almost identical to, Fram and FH. Stjarnan and Káa were the sort of standouts. Stjarnan at that point, 24 points, 14 from top, 10 from bottom. Káa, 23, 10 versus 13. But yeah, I think that's maybe what stood out for me, the difference between Breiðablik and Víkingur, was this ability to beat teams from the top versus just or mostly getting teams from points from the bottom half.
Yeah, which might make all the difference after the split, right? If Víkingur are so confident taking points off the big boys, it could be the make or break factor there. But it's nice to have a little interesting 2-horse race at the top. It'd be fun to see Breiðablik catch them on points, inject a little bit of drama.
Yeah, hopefully we can have a little bit of drama going into the last 2 games of the season. I think it's always a little bit more. It's always more fun not have everything decided. I mean, there's still going to be drama. There's still going to be Europe and relegation and everything like that. I don't think any of that will be settled by the last half. But it's also nice to have the helicopter flying between stadiums with a trophy and stuff. It adds a bit of extra spice.
Yes, sir. The final game, the one we haven't talked about, IA and Fram. IA beating Fram 1-0 to sort of leapfrog ever so slightly there up into 4th place. It's starting to look relatively settled, right? This top 6 being filled up by IA, FH, Fram.
Yeah, I think Stjarnan are the only sort of dark horses a little bit. I think with them out of Europe, getting some injuries, letting their players rest a little bit, getting some injuries, players back from injury. I think they are the dark horse for me. Fram look a little bit. They still look pretty good. It's more, there's these sort of games. They just needed to eke out that 1-0, which I thought they would, but they couldn't quite do it.
No, but we discussed this last week. There's sort of the run of games that's coming up. It's going to be heavily dependent on their little head-to-heads. As well. I mean, Fram are playing both FH and Káa, for example. So there's going to be some drama there. But I guess responding to the things we said about them a little bit there. They haven't been doing so hot, and
yeah, yes and no. I think they won the game, so yeah, they did. But it's also, I think this game was 0-0 in many, multiverses. I think the goal came from Gennaro Daniels doing a lot of turns and twists in the middle of the pitch when he should have just gotten rid of it. And then counter. It's a start of the second half, and they found Viktor Jónsson with acres of space, which he somehow doesn't score from, and but he gets us in the rebound, and Kenny Chopard gets to it on the line, and just tries to just boot it out, but can't, and it was just a really messy goal that really should have been avoided. So it is the difference having players like Victor Johnson who can finish those chances, but yeah, I think that game was kind of a 0-0, and I think they'll need to step it up a little bit, if they're gonna see out this season.
Runar kind of actively threw Gennaro under the bus there, blaming him for the goal. Is that a good strategy for your new player? I guess. I guess if you're angry at him.
Yeah, I think it's sort of big name coming into a relatively small pond. Maybe you need to, bring him down a level. Tell him, stop it. Fram are playing a very specific type of football, like we talked about. Runar wants discipline from his players. There was some talk from Breki Baldurs, who just left Fram to go to Esbjerg in Denmark. He threw Runar a little bit of shade. He sort of said that it won't. He was asked about whether he's going to get game time at Esbjerg in Denmark for the first team, and he said, "Well, it won't be much. It won't be harder to get more game time than I've gotten at Fram." Which, yeah, it's a fair point, because he's not really played that much. He got a lot of game time at the end of last season. He was one of those teenagers that saved Fram from relegation under Nonni Ragnar. But he hasn't really gotten much of a chance, and he said he wasn't the biggest fan, or it didn't quite say it, but I think he sort of hinted that maybe he didn't quite agree with Runar's approach to this team. But it has worked, so it does show results, but it's not for everyone.
No, but they do find themselves in a decent little position. Fram, and if we compare, you both at the start of the season predicted them bottom half finishes. To be fair, you predicted them 7th, but Joe predicted them 10th.
Yeah, I was a little bit more bullish on Kauer than.
Yeah.
And it wasn't quite. It wasn't. FONE. I didn't have quite as much belief as it turned out to be.
No, but such is football. The other stuff that happened, of course, was Flora Tallinn versus Víkingur. With Víkingur walking away victorious there, beating them 1-2 or 2-1, if you want to phrase it that way, for a 3-2 win on aggregate for Víkingur. We've hinted at it that they'll be continuing to play in Europe, but this is what happened, and this is why.
Yeah, it was a huge win for them. We spoke about it last time. They failed to win at home. They were really, I think that's something they could have really hit them hard in this game, and this was a much tighter game than I think you might have expected. Víkingur had really good periods, but Flora did equalize to 1-1, but it was called back because of VAR. And then there was a lot of pressure that Flora put on towards the latter half of the game. Helgi Guðjóns, the striker, was playing wing back in a 5-man defense. So they were really sitting back and trying to hold on. So, it's Arnar called it a character win. So people were tired, and there's a picture of Aron Elís after the game, who had to be taken off twice, I think, because of injury. There's a picture of him with a huge scar on his face. So it was a hard-fought game. Maybe too hard-fought, too tight for many people's liking, I think. Like I spoke with Reese from the Estonian Football Podcast. They weren't super optimistic, the Estonians, before this game. Expecting the champions of Iceland to relatively easily go through this tie, but it didn't quite. I think being good, I don't know if it's nerves or if they're tired or just they're not used to this level. They're not used to getting this far in Europe, so they're just a bit scared of losing. But it's gonna be. They're gonna have to make sure they don't get too complacent for the next round, because it's against the Andorran champions, Santa Coloma, which is a team that most people would expect Víkingur to just steamroll, but Víkingur have not been steamrolling anyone so far. So
yeah, absolutely, they do. So they're gonna have a tough little end to the season, Víkingur, with a lot of important games. So we'll see if they manage to keep their focus. That'll be the big one. We've covered most of the transfer stuff, but not all of it. What haven't we covered?
I think we can just sort of quickly give a quick overview. The top three, there weren't that many movements, in the sort of the last few days of the window that we haven't covered. I think the big one was Albin Skoglund to Valur from Utsikten Pico in Sweden. 500,000 Swedish kroner transfer fee, which is a decent amount. Sort of a player that Tuva knows well from his time in Sweden, so he knows what he's bringing in. But yeah, Vikingur and Breiðablik didn't bring on anyone the last few days. Vikingur were linked with Viktor Jonsson. They did submit offer to Viktor Jonsson and I think Fredji as well. But they were at least being rumored to them. Understandably, neither Ia or Fram wanted to let them go. There was
it would be a little bit unfair.
Yeah, and Arnar was sort of talking a bit tongue in cheek after the transfer window closed that he thinks it's a bit. He kind of liked the sort of back and forth that after Vikingur submitted an offer for Fred, then Fram submitted an offer to Helgi Guðjóns, sort of in retaliation a little bit. So he liked it a little bit. Arnar said he liked the humor of it, but he also found it kind of silly when teams get offended by people making offers for their players. And then sort of in the middle of the pack, the biggest signing, I guess, was Robbie Vakaka for FO from Ghent on loan. There's an obvious link. There's Arnar Viðarsson, the old Icelandic manager. He's the director of football there, or youth football or something. He's got some sort of non-managerial title. So he sent them one of his players. So that's going to be quite good to get add some players into the FO side. And they also brought in Ingimar Torbjörnsson Støle from Kawa on loan. People might remember us talking a lot about him last season. He was one of the sort of highlights of Kawa's end of season last year. Very highly rated player, but hasn't really gotten things going again this season. So it's exciting to see if maybe this is the kick he needs, because he needed some playing time and Kawa desperately needed a fullback. And then the other sort of deals for Stjarnan, they recalled Breki Baxter on loan from Selfoss because they sold Helgi Frode to Helmond Sport in Holland. So it's going to be a big loss for them. He was a really talented player, but despite quite a young age, has already played quite a lot of games and scored goals and assists. So it's going to be exciting to follow him. And then Kawa signed Dagur Ingi Valsson from Keflavik. There was some talk, again, there's very little transparency into finances in Iceland, but there was no published transfer fee, but there was some talk that there was actually like a 5 million Icelandic kroner transfer fee for him. Some people have said that's too high, but sort of 4 or 5 million is the number rolling around, which is a pretty decent sum for a player that was his contract was running out.
Not playing in the top division.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much game time he gets and how he adapts. Quickly through Kawa, there was a lot of talk, a lot of players being rumored, but in the end, Guðmundur Andri was the only player that moved. So he's injured for the next few weeks, but he should be ready by the end of the season. It's quite a nice, interesting signing. I remember him when he came through at Kawa, criticism that he wasn't given like sort of enough first team chances when he was there. A lot of times on the bench, and then he moved into Norway where he did okay, but nothing crazy. And then he came back home and he went to Valur, which was some drama there. He didn't go back to Kawa. He's been criticized a little bit since coming back. He hasn't maybe set the world on fire, so this is his chance to go back home, prove some people wrong, set the record straight. So it's quite exciting. And then they signed 3 pre-contracts for the end of the season. So from the first division, they signed Gabriel Hrannar Eyjolfsson from Grótta and Ólafur Dagur Thorlacius from Fjölnir. These are 2 players that Óskar Rapp knows well from his time at Grótta. Big name was Matthias Prest from Fylkir. They tried to get him in the summer, but yeah, since Fylkir couldn't get Omar from Leiknir, then Matthias had to stay. And there was some Fylkir fans weren't super happy because he was pictured in a Kawa shirt for the announcement.
did the photo shoot in the middle of the season for the move at the end of the season. It's you wouldn't see it happening elsewhere, probably.
But we've spoken about him at least once or twice before. He's quite an interesting player, and his story when he came to Iceland was that he just he rented an Airbnb and went on trials and tried to find himself a club. So he's clearly a player with ambition and believes in himself and was willing to take chances. So I think, a player like that, I don't think you should be surprised that when he gets a chance to move to a bigger club, that he would grab that. Yeah, the picture was maybe not the smartest decision.
No, but I mean, what difference does it make? He's just going to move to Coed. He doesn't care, I guess, unless he doesn't care about not playing so much for the rest of the season, if this is going to have some repercussions.
Yeah, exactly. And then finally, Hauka, they brought in 2 people, Tarek Shihab from Grótta and Dagur Fjellsted on loan from Breiðablik. Yeah, again, like we spoke about, Fylkir and Vestri, is that enough? Dagur is quite an interesting young player that hasn't maybe gotten enough chances at Breiðablik, so hopefully he can get a bit of chance. And Tarek is a player that I have not seen very much, if at all, but he was called up. I think he was called up as to the Yemeni national team. I don't think he's gotten a cap, but I might be wrong about that. I tried to find it, but it wasn't super easy. So that's exciting. We have a Yemeni sort of either full international or a Yemeni sort of half international playing in the Bestadilden, which is quite cool.
Yeah, that's cool. So there were some movements here in the transfer window, but I mean, nothing insane, I guess. No crazy deadline day stuff.
No. There was a lot of rumors, but yeah, nothing came towards the end. I think when there was that rumor about Víkingur trying to sign Fredji, I think that was the biggest news story. I think that would have been crazy.
It would have. Before we move on to our 3 stars, we forgot to talk about drama. We teased drama, and the plan was to talk about it when we talked about the Stjarnan Breiðablik drama, and then we didn't talk about the drama. Arnar Gunnlaugs getting a straight red and a 3-match ban. His 2nd red card this season for grumping at the ref after Vestri scored, repeatedly throwing his clipboard or whatever, his papers to the ground in a real tour de force of emotion in the wake of what I think is not the world's worst tackle.
No, when I saw it on TV, I didn't think it was anything. I mean, there might be some contact there, but yeah, I think it's a pretty clean tackle. It did lead to the Vestri equalizer, but his complaint, I think, was much before. I think it was before that, but yeah, I think it was when the tackle happened. Yeah, there's been a lot of talk in Iceland whether this was not whether this was an overreaction, but this is whether it's a good thing that he's overreacting like this, or whether it's something to be stamped out, and talking heads about whether, this is football, you don't know football, and then some sports psychologists talking about that, this is not that normal to react like this. But yeah, second red card of the season. It's not great.
No, I mean, yeah, I don't know how to feel about it. It wasn't that bad, the tackle, so I think he's overreacting a little bit. I generally think it's fine to get a little bit heated in situations like this. I think it's okay, and he didn't do anything really, which is what makes it sort of fine in my eyes. He kind of just threw his papers on the ground and was in a huff. It's not like no one was really in any danger there. And, there wasn't really much to it other than just sort of a bit of an explosion of emotion. So, I mean, whatever. He just got a little bit worked up. I think it's fine. It's fine to give him a red card for it as well, because it was a bit much. But, I mean, whatever,
Yeah, he just in general was not happy about the refereeing performance in this game. He went on a long diatribe about it afterwards, that this is not the quality you expect from referees at the highest level. This is not youth team football where where you shouldn't be too negative about referees. Where this is high level football, a lot at stake. We're fighting for the title. It's he was very upset.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess he's also upset at dropping points in a game like this. Oh well, it sucks, Arnar, but here we are. And now you have to chill for 3 games. Anything more than 3 games would have been a bit ridiculous. I mean, it's not like it was that bad, I think. But I mean, straight red 3 is just textbook stuff. Now we can move on to the 3 stars. What was the rule? That if you score 4, you have to get a star. But if you score 3, you have to be considered.
Yeah, I think that's the hard rule.
Fair enough. Well, Jonathan Ingi was considered and awarded a star for the hat trick, and I guess a penalty assist, if you can call it that, which kind of, if it was hockey, it'd be 4 points or something, right? They get a point for assists or something.
Yeah. No, well deserved for that, and that's why we gave Antonari a bit of an honorary star, because we didn't want to consider both games at the same time, because he didn't really have the greatest game against Breiðablik, but Háka was really good, so we'll just consider that in this star giving. Second star, I think, us being us, we have to give it to a KR player, and I think with that, winning, first win, first home win, first clean sheet and everything, Jón Arnar was I think quite good. 17-year-old defender who's come in a bit in the last few weeks. He's been playing fullback. It has been criticized a little bit, but I think in general he's done a pretty good job. And I think in this game he was playing in the center because Finnur was suspended, and did really well against a very strong FA team. And I think he deserves a bit of a shout out.
Absolutely. Thank you for your service. And then the third star, Erik Tobias from IA. Just a metronome in that team, providing the sort of classical defensive cover that he's done in helping secure that win against Fram, those 3 points, which are going to serve them well, hopefully solidify them a little bit here in the top half. Maybe make sure that they go into the split on the right side.
Yeah, and he did really well in this game, but I think it's also he had gotten some points from previous performances. I think he earned this one a little bit cumulatively, if you can call it that. I think he's done really well this season and maybe not gotten the recognition that he deserves. So I think this is a great time to call him out.
Absolutely. And called him out we have. In terms of the listener questions, we asked, first of all, if KR are going to make the top half, and an overwhelming majority in the 90% saying yes to KR making the top half, which is interesting, given that they're currently in 8th, 3 points behind the top half. But it's possible. We did talk them up as the form champions. They're still looking pretty good on form. Disappointing draw this week, or last week, or whatever you want to say, but yeah, it's a possibility. Let's see if our listeners' thoughts and desires come true. And then on Twitter, we asked whether Arnar was right to be upset in the thing that we just talked about, and 22% said yes, and 78% said no. I mean, yeah, I think we agree roughly with that. We think I don't think he was right to be upset. I kind of get it, but I don't think he was right to be. He needs to chill a little bit. He's probably just stressed. But he has 3 games to chill. If we look ahead to round 19, which is coming up, first round 19 is coming up, then Háka KR apparently is getting replayed a couple of days after that. But first of all, Vestri KR is happening, at the time of recording, happening tomorrow on Saturday in Ísafjörður. This is a game I would have loved to go to. It would have been awesome.
I went to this game many years ago, back when Vestri were called BAE Bónusvík.
Very good. Yeah, I would love to go to this game, but we have KR Stjarnan, which is one of these big middle of the table fights we've discussed so often. We have Háka Fylkir, which is a big old relegation battle. I mean, if Vestri drops points against KR and one of Háka or Fylkir wins, then it sort of changes the landscape down there at the bottom. We have FH Valur, where I guess nobody knows what's going to happen at this point. We have Vikingur IA, where if IA really want to mess things up a little bit, they should really try to take points there. I can see it happening. And then we have Breiðablik Fram. So whatever happens in those two games, Vikingur IA, Breiðablik Fram, is going to be very important for how things look at the top of the table and the middle of the table. So those are some games.
Yeah, it's every game is a 6-pointer almost, and
yeah,
there is a chance the Valur will be even down to 5th place by the end of the, or maybe not because of goal difference. Then yeah, probably not. Without goal difference, they could have been down to 5th place by the end of the weekend. But yeah, they might be tied on points, sort of tied 5th, which would be pretty insane.
But all of this will come to light over this coming weekend and Monday. So stay tuned to those games. Stay tuned to @BestaEnglish, both on Twitter and on Instagram. Those posts and polls and what have you. Yeah, and that's it. Watch the games. Conversate. Ugh, I hate that word when people say that. Converse with us and have a good weekend, I guess.
Yeah. Thanks for joining, and goodbye.
Bye-bye.